Howdy, who all my stock market gamblers? Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. So glad you're here. What do we got going on? Well, we got the markets. They made a top, came down, went back up, made a top. I think we're going to get another leg of distribution, a down leg, if you will. I think that's coming to the marketplace. But we can, on a short-term basis, what I talk about a lot of times, it's a timing thing, right? On a short-term basis, maybe they get that S&P up to a new high. Maybe they get that Dow a little bit higher. I don't think they're going to get the NASDAQ to a new high. We'll see how that plays out. But eventually, you're going to have another down leg of distribution. Now, is this the big crash? No, I don't think it is. You still got the HYG holding strong. That's the junk bonds. The junk bonds will be leading us lower when the big crash comes. Now, a lot of people, when I talk about big crash, I'm not saying that's going to be tomorrow. Nobody knows when the big 80% downdraft is. But in the long term, it's going to happen. I mean, maybe next week, maybe 6 months from now, maybe they could push it out a year from now. But it is inevitable. This is a bubble. It's overbought market, and it's going to come down. Now, a lot of people don't think you can have inflation at the same time the market's coming down. It's going to be a little bit different this time. Now, this is just my take. Your take may be completely different. But what's going to cause the inflation is the fact that the market's coming down. Okay, so the stock market starts to drop, right? Starts to drop 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Starts to come down. What is going to be the Fed's natural reaction? The only thing they can do, right? They can only print money. So they're going to print money trying to get the bubble bigger, right? But this time the money's not going to go back in to the stock market. Now, where's it going to go? See, my opinion is it's going to go into the commodity market. The commodity market is going to have a bull run like you've never seen before. Yes, commodities could come down with the market to begin with. Once the Fed starts printing money, you're going to see the commodity markets taking off. Now, they call gold and silver commodities, even though they're really money. You can put them in the commodity basket with oil and wheat, corn, but you're going to see all commodities go up. You see, the money is going to be pulled out of the stock market, right? People are going to get fearful. They're going to take their money out of the stock market. The Fed's going to start printing money. Commodities are going to start to take off. People are going to pile into the commodities. They're going to pile into the gold and silver because they're going to see when the Fed does the money printing that their purchasing power is going to continue to decline. Even though the stock market's declining, their purchasing power is going to decline with it. But they're going to see the commodity basket going higher and higher and higher, and they're going to be piling into that, which is going to send it higher and higher and higher. So you're going to have a market that's coming down, but that market that's coming down is going to be the thing that causes inflation to go higher. Now, this isn't going to happen tomorrow. This isn't going to happen next week. Maybe they print a lot of money and they get this market pushed up a little bit higher. But when the market has that big drop, the 40, 50, 60% drop, you're going to see the commodities reset themselves. They're going to actually go higher. I know it's counterintuitive. Nobody believes this is going to happen. I'm okay with that. This is just my take. This is just how I see it. Market come down, print a lot of money. Money's got to flow somewhere. Going to flow into the commodities. Commodities are going to be reset at higher numbers, going to send inflation through the roof. Now, when you think about it, what happens when inflation goes through the roof? Long end of the bond market goes higher, right? Think things like mortgages. Think things like mortgages going 10, 12, 14%, right? The mortgages will be going up because you're going to see the inflation spiking, long end of the bond market spiking, and then you're going to see the mortgages going up. What's that going to do to your house? That's why I don't like housing here. It's way unaffordable at this level, but even when the big crash comes, you're going to see the housing join the big crash because of the inflation in the commodity end of things once the money printer starts to go burr, right? Okay, so you can have a declining stock market with commodity prices going higher. Counterintuitive, doesn't make sense. Just my take. Your moon boys will tell me this is impossible. I say it's very possible. This is actually how I see it playing out. When the big crash, it's not time yet. The big crash is not here yet. You'll see that HYG leading the charge lower. The junk bonds will be leading the charge lower. Now the HYG, that scares me, right? Here's why. It's called junk bonds, right? And a lot of people buy this. It's an ETF. But when they start to go down, the junk bonds become illiquid. Nobody can buy them at any price. Rick Rule, he calls them the owl bonds, right? Because you say to sell them, and he says, to who? To who? I love when Rick Rule does that. You got to watch him if you haven't seen that. But anyways, there's not going to be any buyers for the junk bonds, and that ETF becomes illiquid and will probably just crash like a rock. It's going to be quite frightening. Okay, so we got, how can you protect yourself? I always say real money, gold and silver. Look, now this is something you probably heard about. Greg Manarino planning a march on the Federal Reserve, right? He's planning a march. July 4th, 2025, we're going to march on the Federal Reserve to take back control of the money, to take our rights back. This is a constitutional right. It's Article 1, Section 10, if you want to read it. Only gold and silver are money. This is real money. We have a right to this. It's a constitutional right that the Federal Reserve has taken away from us. Yes, we're going to have to do away with the Federal Reserve. Why? Well, because they're a criminal organization. They've stolen 98% of our purchasing power. 98%. They've stolen from us, and we have to take back our power. We have to get the power out of the government's hands and get it back into the hands of the people. See, what the government doesn't get is they work for the people. They aren't allowed to just print money into, perpetuity and just print it into oblivion and buy whatever they want. They're not allowed to do that. Yes, that wins votes, right? That wins votes, okay? If you get Kamala in there, I promise you she's going to be running UBI, Universal Basic Income, right? That's where you print up the money you don't have and you hand it out to the poor people. Now, does this make the poor people richer? Let me give you a little short class of economics. Kamala, if you're watching, this is how it works. You print up the money, you hand it out to all the poor people, right? You hand them, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. Every month they get a check for UBI, Universal Basic Income. With money we don't have to give them, you print the money. What does it do? Does it make them rich? No, they go spend the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month you give them. They spend it on rent. They spend it on the big screen TVs. They spend it on food. What happens to those prices? Those prices go up. Who gets rich? The wealthy. The billionaires will double and triple their money again if Kamala gets in. And the other guy ain't going to be much better. But I'm just saying, when you print money, a lot of people don't get that. You're not helping the poor people. You're printing money because you think you're helping the poor. No, you're destroying the poor. You see, we become a two-class system, right? And for lack of better words, I'll call it the rich people and the poor people. The rich people have the assets. The poor people are the workers, and they don't have assets. They live month to month, paycheck to paycheck. They go out there on their job and they get paid. So they get paid, they go buy food for their family and they pay the rest for rent, right? And then they're out of money. Okay, so the more money you print, you're going to make the poor people poorer, even though it might be a temporary shot in the arm, like the stimulus program, right? During the pandemic, everybody got extra money. Some people were making more money, paying paid to stay at home and sit on the couch, watch TV. They were making more money they wore on their job, right? Now, how did this help them? Well, they spent that money and they had a good life for, the 6 months or a year, whatever it was, that they didn't have to go into the work. But what happened? Well, prices went up 40%, right? So 40% more. Now they have to work harder, right? Because they're not making 40% more, so they got to work harder. Their standard of living went down. Now, whose standard of living went up? Once again, the rich people. The rich people, their standard of living exploded higher. They can buy more Lamborghinis. They can buy more yachts. They can travel to exotic places. First class, take all the vacations they want because they got very wealthy. You keep printing the money, you're going to have this class divide, right? Now, eventually there'll be a revolt because there are more poor people than there are rich people, right? But when you print the money, it does not help the poor people. The politicians, they come and say, we're going to print all this money to help the poor people. No, it doesn't. doesn't work like that. It hurts them because it raises prices. And after all the stimulus wears off, now they got these higher prices. They got to pay more for rent, pay more for housing, pay more for food, pay more for gas. And they don't have more money because you stopped sending them the money. But, so you got to print more money and repeat the process. What are the rich people doing? They're watching their assets explode higher and higher and higher, getting wealthier and wealthier. Now, they think the economy's doing great, right? I've got rich friends that are worth 10, 20, 30, 40 million, right? And they think the economy's doing great. I got these other friends, they're homeless. They're living in their car. They're going into work every day. They can't afford food. They can't afford to live indoors. They're going down. Their standard of living is going down. And that's what we become. We become this two-tiered, two classes, two-tiered economy, if you will. Economy is working great if you can borrow money, go buy the assets, and watch the assets balloon upward, right? Okay, so we got to get rid of the Fed. We got to have them stop printing money. You see, they've already 35 trillion in debt. We didn't have this 35 trillion in debt even 20 years ago. We were like less than 10 trillion. I mean, less than 1 trillion. But what they did is they printed all this money, put us 35 trillion in debt. Now you tack on the other 120 in the unfunded liabilities, the Social Security, the Medicare, you got over 150 trillion dollars that we're on the hook for. Why? Because they printed money, because they ran a Ponzi scheme with your Social Security money. You paid in, right? 40 years of paying in. They don't have your money. They spent your money. They're criminals. I'm telling you, we got to kick these people out, right? We got to take the power back. How do we do that? We have a quiet revolt. You get out of their currency. Their currency is the only thing that keeps them in power. Look, if they cannot print one more dollar, they lose power. They lose 100% of their power. We get back to real money. Look, they cannot do UBI with real money. Why? Because they don't have 10 ounces of gold to go give everybody. But those digits on the screen, we can put some digits on the screen for you. Sure, but what does it do? Sends prices skyrocketing, right? But so the Federal Reserve, right? I mean, they just print the money, print the money, print the money. But you take 35 trillion, that's going to soon be $50 trillion. 50 trillion, I'd say another 3 years we'll hit 50 trillion because it's continuing to go up faster and faster. A trillion every 100 days, soon it'll be a trillion every 50 days. Soon it's going to be $1 trillion a day, I'm afraid to tell you. But that's the only direction we're headed until we take back the power, till we get back into sound money. Greg Manarino marching on the Federal Reserve building. I love that, right? George Gammon suing the Fed. I donated money to that cause. We have a class action suit against the Fed, right? Now the Fed's been just pushing us off because they got power. They are above the law. You say no one's above the law. Believe me, they're above the law. They got caught trading red-handed, insider trading, right? They got caught red-handed, and they came out and they said, that's unfortunate. We'll be sure to monitor ourselves better. They're way above the law. We got to take back our country, people. Our country is going down a hill. We're circling the drain. And the ones that are doing it to us is the Federal Reserve. They're a criminal organization, in my opinion. We have to get rid of them. But okay, so you got 50 trillion going to be within 3 years. 50 trillion, not the 120 trillion in liabilities, but when you print another trillion, you add it on, you tack it on, you tack it on. We can't even afford to pay the interest on the debt. You see, we don't have money. So we have to print the interest, print the money to pay the interest on the debt, right? Okay, so you got 35 trillion, you're going to 50 trillion. 50 trillion, that's just called 5% interest. I don't know what the rate's going to be then, but that's called 5%. That's $2.5 trillion a year. That's over half the money that we bring in taxes. Why pay taxes? I mean, you have to pay taxes or you go to jail, right? But there's really no need. They could just print it, right? And that's what they've been doing. They've been taxing the crap out of us, but they've been printing money like crazy, which is another tax, 25% in the last 4 years, a 25% tax on every dollar you make, every dollar you have in savings, every dollar you spend. It's the everything tax. It's called inflation, 25% under the Biden administration. Just since they took over, can you afford another 25? I cannot, but actually I can. You know why? Because I'm in real money, right? if they stay in power, my real money is going to just take off. But I feel sorry for people. I feel sorry for our country. I walk outside. I'm going to need to put a wall around my house to protect me. That's what's going to have to happen. You see, that's what the rich people are going to do. They're going to live in a prison, right, with a wall around your house because you're going to need protection. You walk out, you're going to see the homeless. You walk out, you're going to see the hungry people. They're going to rob you. Crime is going to go through the roof. We have to take our country back. And the way we do this, peaceful revolt, we get out of the currency, we get into real money, get into gold and silver. This is just my take. It's just my idea. It's just what I'm doing. You do whatever you want. But we got a little bit of a sale going on. Gold and silver dropped a little bit, right? Silver, cheapest asset on the planet, the coin of the realm, constitutional silver, if you will, the dimes, the quarters, the half dollars, the dollars. Pick some of this stuff up. Now it's cheap. You'll be thanking me later. Look, I still say 500 ounces will get you the average price house, but that's just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong. What if I'm wrong? Then you're stuck. You're stuck with that 500 ounces. Is it going to be terrible? Maybe it is for you. It takes about $15,000 to get 500 ounces. If I'm right, you just get to trade it in for the average price home. We'll see how this all plays out. I'm Tall Mike. Give me a thumbs up today. Punch the subscribe button. Hey, we're almost at 4,000, right? Yeah, so subscribe. Be that 4,000 subscriber. We can push me over the top. I used to get like 30 people subscribe every show. You know how many I get these days? About one a show. You know why? Because YouTube doesn't like what I'm telling you. That's why. Anyways, get out there, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye now.